I like dolls, but I love books. Okay, I love dolls too. You got me. Hello out there, all you doll-loving book nerds, and welcome to my channel, where my dolls and I sit and talk about the books we like. Sometimes it's Barbie, sometimes it's Illy, sometimes it's Monster High, sometimes it's a Disney princess, sometimes it Must I Carry On? I mean, I really feel like you kind of get the point. Basically, my dolls and I have our own little book club. My name is Daniel, and I am the Barbie book boy. Guys, I really wish Judge Judy would have been around for like the olden times. I'm talking about when women were persecuted and sentenced to death if they so much as sneezed into a breeze. I'd like to think these are better times, but that's only because I've read enough to know better than to romanticize the past. Anyway, that spunky little sprite Judge Judy wouldn't have tolerated all that injustice for even 1 second. But the irony is she wouldn't have survived those times being a smart, liberated woman and all. So... oh, I know. She'd need to be a vampire, but like a Twilight vampire because she would need to attend court trials during the day. Okay, so all we need to do is build a time machine, convince Judge Judy to go for a ride with us, find a vampire to turn her, and voila, eternal justice for all. What could be simpler? See, then the titular character of little Hettie Gale and countless other women throughout time wouldn't have met such a tragic fate. But since we don't have vampire Judge Judy to save the day for poor little Hettie Gale, we just have to let it play out the way it was written. So today, my co-host and I will be talking about The Hanging of Hettie Gale by Tess Burnett. And since there are aspects of this story that are lonely and full of woe, it's of the utmost importance that I pick the perfect plastic pal for today. But how to choose? Well, since there isn't a vampire Judge Judy Barbie that I know of, that's out of the question. And even though we are knocking on the door of spooky season, I kind of want to do someone a little bit random. Maybe a little unexpected. So put your hands together for Jewel Hair Mermaid Barbie. I think this is a completely normal decision that anyone can understand. Because look at her. Yes, I'm fully aware of her crazy box hair situation that we have going on, and I fully intend to address it at a later date. But for now, this insane top knot, like, wannabe beehive ponytail thing I've got going on is just gonna have to do. Because if you've ever held one of these beauties, you know just how quickly all of this hair gets out of hand. But she needs this much hair for her mermaid powers, so it's a small price to pay for awesomeness. I mean, who else could possibly pull off wearing this much gold? She took all the other colors, threw them in the trash, and said, "Gold me." And I think that was the best decision. Really, for all of us, because we've been benefiting from her gold beauty since like 1995. Also, I was lucky enough to get my new inbox from eBay, so I do have all of the little Velcro stars that you're supposed to put in her hair. But with her hair being so at risk for just absolute chaos, I figure let's not. Besides, I think it really would be gilding the lily. If she had sparkly stars in her hair, I would have to take down every painting, hide every knickknack, close the blinds, kick the dogs out, and throw myself on the floor because it would be too much ornamentation for one house. I almost hate to be seen on camera next to such beauty because she kind of makes me look like rancid dog meat. But I can't discuss this book alone, so I'll just have to try and not look so... well, like me. So we should probably get started before the clock runs out on my nerve. But we need to slow down a second. Seriously, you guys, slow down. Because if I didn't take a second to warn you about the content in this book, you would never forgive me. Basically, just know that the subject of SA comes up quite a bit in this book. Like from chapter 1. Right out the metaphorical gate. So please proceed with caution because I wouldn't want it sneaking up on you and catching you unawares. That's what ghosts are for. Anyway, so it's the 18th century and life on the Scottish moors is thriving. As you can imagine, it's an absolute delight. Or, for poor little Hettie Gale, it ain't no picnic in the park. Aw, picnic on the moors actually sounds kind of nice. Anyway. Poor little Hettie has been having a rough time at home. See, her dad is, well, a monster. And her mom ain't no better. Basically, through absolutely no fault of her own, poor little Hettie ends up completely and totally abandoned by her folks. So Hettie finds herself all alone after being horribly victimized. Yet, she admirably tries to carve out a life for herself and her precious little young son. And for a while, she's happy. Poor, but happy. Perhaps a bit naive, but happy. Until Hettie gets brutally assaulted by an evil gang of disgusting men, who then proceed to lie about the attack to save their own worthless butts. These lowlives accuse Hettie of something unthinkable, and in a probably all too common example of the injustice that women and girls often faced at that time. Okay, let's face it, and today. Poor little Hettie is sentenced to death. The end. I'm just kidding. Fast forward a few hundred years, and a young lady named Alice, by the way, love an old school name like Alice. Alice receives word that her glamorous cousin has mysteriously gone missing from their family cottage. So she heads on up to the old family cottage on the moors to try and help with the investigation. Alice really loved the cottage as a kid, but as an adult, she gets sucked into the local legend of the infamous Hettie Gale, a young girl who was put to death after being accused of a heinous crime. Alice then manages to get her little hands on a set of journals that date back all the way to the time of Hettie's hanging. She starts piecing together this tenuous connection between several disappearances that have happened on the moors, spanning the centuries since Hettie's death. Unsure of what it all means and what, if anything, it has to do with her missing cousin, Alice will basically try anything and explore any option to help find her, and maybe even help Hettie in the process. So what are my thoughts? No. Well, sometimes I don't really respond favorably to these dual timeline stories. I tend to find it a bit jarring when they flip back and forth like that. But Hettie made it worth it. I specifically responded to her logical yet colloquial way of speaking. I mean, it was just full of charm. Hettie had this unique blend of youthful naivete and a certain provincial wisdom that just breaks your heart given what we know. Through it all, I actually had to keep reminding myself that even though she was managing and raising her son completely alone in an extremely harsh world, Hettie was herself just a kid, which makes her strength and resilience all the more admirable. And a bit sad because no child should ever be put in that situation. As for Alice and her timeline, I liked Alice. She's a smart cookie. And though she doesn't necessarily have the fondest memories of her missing cousin, they weren't very close. She certainly doesn't want anything bad to happen to her. See, Alice's family is rapidly shrinking, and the dynamic among her remaining family members is becoming this ever-widening chasm that Alice is eager and desperate to try and repair. That's just who she is. She's driven to fix things. She's driven to help. She's driven to find answers and solutions. And maybe even love. Okay, there's a love interest. Of course there is. Because we can't have a spooky story on haunted moors without a little romance. But don't worry, it isn't derailing to the story or the flow of the mystery or the plot or anything like that. I mean, the author didn't go full Wuthering Heights or anything. Even though the male love interest in this story was about as likable as Heathcliff, which is to say not at all. I hated that guy. Okay, calm down. Hate is a strong word to be using in the presence of such grandeur, but he sucked. I seriously struggled to find anything redeemable about this tool, and I was completely baffled that a smart girl like Alice would even give this guy a second glance. I don't know, maybe she was just like a really big fan of Beauty and the Beast and doesn't know any better. Of course you do. Or maybe the writer was living out some Catherine Heathcliff fantasy. But I didn't like him. Like, why couldn't he be one of the people going missing out on the moors? Anyway, the parts of this book that are a difficult read due to their subject matter are also the things that kind of drive your reading. Because this book is ultimately a quest for justice. And the character of Hettie is a tragic testament to the enduring love of a mother, regardless of her bitterly young age. So there you have it. our thoughts on The Hanging of Hettie Gale by Tess Burnett. An intriguing little story on navigating the murky moors of injustice. Thank you so much for watching. My dolls and I are going to be doing these weekly book reviews, so if that's your thing, then stay tuned. Oh, and while you're here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment for Jewel Hair Mermaid Barbie. She's always available for compliments and adoration. How would you feel about me maybe giving your hair some layers?